Hey guys, it's me Matthew again. Today I'm going to be doing another audio. And this time, this particular story isn't based or inspired by any other story. It's purely my own. It's called A Tomcat's Happiness. And this one is a bit more easier for me to read this time. And this time it has a bit more additional audio sensations. And you'll see what I mean. But anyways, I truly do hope you all like this story. So please, if you like it, subscribe by holding the bell down below. But if you're not new here, not subscribed, please subscribe by holding the bell down below, as well as go over to my community posts. You don't know what you may find, as well as go over to check out my previous audio series known as Anime/Dragon Knight Unlimited. But anyways, let's move on to the audio story. Once there was a school that had a bloody history. I saw that history without anyone knowing. My name is Sabor Clash. I am half cat, half human, and a vampire. There are people all over the world who are human, cat, or vampire. There used to be werewolves in the world, but became extinct in 1436. Back when I was young, I saw things that will scar me forever. I don't remember, let alone anything before that memory. I don't know who my own mother and father are. The only thing I remember is a friendly female face who I believe to be my mother. I remember her smell, warmth, and that smile of hers. I was in a harmonious city with lands left and right. I was wandering around on all fours, just looking around out of curiosity, when I saw two girls wearing school uniforms. They looked friendly enough for me to come out to say hello. One of the girls was asked, "So did you hear?" The other girl said, "Hear about what?" The other girl said, "About the half-human, half-cat around here." She stopped and her friend asked, "Are you okay?" "Oh, do you mean this, little one? Come here, we won't hurt you." I went over to them, watching, seeing what they might do. They extended their hands out to my nose so that they can have my permission. I sniffed their hands, and the one on the left, that smell that caught my attention. She smelled like the one in my memory, so I continued to smell her out of curiosity. Once I was satisfied, I put my head under their hands, and they pet me, which made me happy enough to make me purr. After a couple of minutes, they decided to continue on to their high school. The one I was curious of said, "Okay, we've got to go. See you next time, you cute little one." "Come on, Ezra." Ezra said, "Okay, see for you. See you later, you cutie." Ezra winked, and they walked off to their school. Out of curiosity, I followed them without them knowing. 3 minutes later, they arrived at their school, heading to their clubs. I followed Sabria to her club. She was doing track club, and I watched her run while I was in a tree. She was the fastest one in her club. She had technique that requires her to run normally, then jump forward and push herself forward with her hands, causing her feet to move in between her hands. Then her feet pushed herself forward even further in an even manner, causing her to be the fastest athlete ever in young athlete history. I watched the rest of the track club run, but none of them interest me. Then I heard someone below me crying, so I dropped down to comfort them out of my kindness. The one crying was a girl who had a sweet smell and the only one who I have seen with pure white hair. I rubbed my head up against her chin. She looked at me with sadness and hugged me, crying on my shoulder until she fell asleep, ending up on my lap. I loved on her with my tail for a bit until one of the girls from the track club noticed me. She said, "Hey everyone, look at that cutie," she said with stars in her eyes. They all came over to me and I gestured to them to be quiet. Sabria saw me and she smiled, then whispered, "Hi, did you follow me here?" I purred passionately and she whispered, "I see. Can one of you please take Miss Yura to the infirmary?" Then someone said, "I'll do it." They all looked at a black and silver-haired boy who looked scary for most. Sabria stood up and said, "Thank you, Shiro." Shiro said, "No problem." He grabbed her onto his back and walked to the infirmary. After they left, the girls around me loved on me, making me purr for a few minutes until the bell rang. Sabria said, "Okay, everyone, it's time to head to class." The girls of the track club complained and went off to class. Sabria said, "See ya in a bit, cutie." She winked at me, then walked off. I climbed back up the tree and took a nap. A few hours later, I woke up. I climbed down the tree and waited for Sabria to come back to love on me. But the one who came to see me wasn't Sabria. Someone came over to me and asked, "What are you doing out here? You're supposed to be inside." I growled at them, tilting my head. He said, "Wait, you aren't one of my students. You're a half-breed." Then the bell rang and the man said, "I've got to go to a meeting. What to do with you?" Then someone said, "Hey, Mr. Sherman." Mr. Sherman asked, "Hey, Sabria, is this half-breed yours, or is he a stray?" Sabria said, "He is a stray, but I'm thinking about taking him home with me." I walked over to her, purring and loving on her with her loving on me back. Mr. Sherman said, "Okay, I see. Well, I've got to go to a meeting. You keep out of trouble, club president." Sabria said, "I will do my best, sir." She smiled. Mr. Sherman walked off to go to his meeting. Sabria sat up against the tree, opened her lunchbox. She grabbed a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and ate it while I laid my head in her lap, purring. A few minutes later, all of the track club girls came over to eat with Sabria. They ate until they were done. They were loving on me, making me happy. Then the bell rang and it was time for them to go back to class. Sabria got up and said, "See you in a couple of hours." She smiled at me, then walked off to class. After a while, I was bored and I decided to run the track. I think I ran 100 laps an hour since Sabria's technique is similar to my own. I just add some extra oomph to my speed and I'm lighter than most. I did this until I was worn out. The bell rang 10 minutes later. Before I was finished running, Sabria came over with her track club. They saw how fast I was and they joined in. Sabria was able to keep up, but only a second behind. Then after a third lap, I stopped and walked over to the tree to rest. All of the track club girls stopped and came over to love on me while I caught my breath. 5 minutes later, Sabria said, "Okay, everyone, I've got to go, and this one's coming home with me." They all said, "Aw." Sabria said, "Now, don't worry, he'll be back Monday unless y'all want to come over to say hello this weekend. Now then, let's go." We walked together to her home and she said, "Hi Mom, I'm home." Her mother said, "Ah, good. Wait. Who is this?" Sabria said, "He's a half-breed who I'd like to adopt." Her mother asked, "Is he sweet?" Sabria said, "Indeed, and he's a second faster than me." Her mother said, "Really? Will you take good care of him?" Sabria said, "I will." Her mother said, "Okay then, let's take him to the vet to get him checked out so we can adopt him." Sabria said, "Yes, ma'am." "Thank you, Mom." She hugged her, then we went to the car and drove to the vet. When we got to the vet, I saw other people with other cats and half-breeds like me. I was both curious and nervous. One of the queen cats looked at me and came over. She sniffed me curiously and she said in our language, "You seem like an interesting Tom." I asked, "What do you mean?" She said, "Oh, it's nothing. Anyways, my name is Pash. What's yours?" I said, "I'm about to find out." Pash said, "Oh, I see. I'll be with you the whole time since my owner both works here and lives here, so I do as well." I said, "Okay." Sabria said, "Okay, you need to go with this vet now, okay?" I heard and did what Sabria said. We went into a room with a metal table and a veterinarian equipment. The veterinarian said, "Okay, can you please come onto the table?" I jumped onto the table and the veterinarian said, "Okay, let's see what I can find." After an hour or two, the veterinarian, Pash, and I came out to the front room. The vet said, "He seems to be very healthy. He seems to take care of himself." I did a blood test on him and found out he's half human, half cat, and a vampire. Sabria's mother said, "Wait, he's a vampire?" The vet said, "Apparently." Sabria's mother asked, "Does he at least drink animal blood?" The vet said, "I tested that and he lately ignored the human blood." Sabria's mother said, "Well, that's a relief." For a moment, I thought I'll have to decline my daughter's wish to adopt him. The vet said, "Don't worry, it's a vet's job to see what blood they may choose or if they even go for it at all." Sabria's mother said, "Okay, well that's good to know. Let me know when you're ready for me to sign papers to adopt him. Vet said, speaking of him, Miss, what do you want to name him? Sabria said, how about Sabor? Sabor. The vet said, Sabor, because he has fangs? Sabria said, yes, and because saber-toothed tigers are my favorite animal. The vet said, okay, that's understandable. Then just sign this and you'll officially have adopted him. Sabria's mother asked, really? Well then, no, Sabria said with a smile. You hear that, Sabor? You're officially my brother. I purred and Pash said, well, Sabor, if you need someone to talk to, you're always free to come here and talk to me. I said, if I follow your scent, I could easily find you, but I'm afraid that I'll only be able to visit you every once in a while. Okay, Pash? Pash said, I understand, Sabor, but I'll always be waiting to see you. I purred and said, I am looking forward to seeing you again too, Pash. I've gotta go home. See you next time. Bye, Pash. Pash said, bye, you handsome Tom. She purred and went back to her spot. Then Sabria's mother said, okay, Sabria dear, it's time to go home. You'll have homework to get done. Sabria said, okay, come on, Sabor. It's time to go home. I purred and we left. When we got home, Sabria and I went to our room. Sabria was doing her homework while I was lying next to her. I got love from time to time. After she was done with her homework, she took me to the bathroom and cleaned me up. I actually liked the warm water, like most cats or half-breeds. After I was clean, Sabria dried me and said, hold on, Sabor, I'll be right back. I waited for a couple of minutes, and she came back with clean clothes for me to wear. She said, okay, Sabor, you can go ahead and get dressed now. Please let me know when you're done. I purred, and she closed the door behind her. I got dressed in the comfortable clothing that Sabria gave me. When I was done, I put my paw on the door handle and I turned it. Sabria opened the door and said, I knew you'd look cute in that. She smiled. Then I walked out and rubbed her left leg while purring. He loved on me, making me purr more. We went back to our room, and man was I happy when I saw a red dot moving around our room. The red dot went to Sabria and disappeared. Then Sabria pet my head, making me purr and happy. Hours later, it was time for dinner, and I was happy to have a fish for me to bear my fangs upon. After I was done sucking any remaining blood inside the fish, I began to eat it bit by bit. After I was done eating, I went to Sabria's and my room to take a nap. After an hour or two, Sabria came in and wrapped the comforter around us and hugged me. We both fell asleep. This is a Tomcat's Happiness. Chapter 2. A Reoccurring Nightmare. I saw blood. Lots and lots of blood. People dying left and right. as I watched as a kitten hidden in the bushes. I saw a bloodbath that I'll never forget. I woke up terrified, jumping up, claws in the ceiling. Sabria woke up surprised, and she saw my eyes. They were red and glowing. She asked, Sabor, what's wrong? I was panting until Sabria got closer, and luckily the window was open so that I could go right out. Sabria said to herself, Sabor? Sabria went outside and saw me in a tree sucking the blood out of an owl. Sabria asked, Sabor, are you okay? She walked closer until I ran up the tree to the top with the owl in my mouth. Sabria got worried and waited for me to come down. A few minutes later, I had sucked all the blood out of the owl and I had calmed down. I came down and Sabria hesitated to hug me until she saw my natural green eyes were no longer blood crimson red. After we hugged each other, she took me to the bathroom to clean the owl blood off my face. After she was done, she told me to go to our room and sleep until she's dressed for school, and so I did. An hour later, Sabria woke me up and got me dressed. After I was dressed, Sabria ate her breakfast, and I already was satisfied from that owl I drank from. Then the bell hit 12 p.m., and Sabria said, well, it's time to go, Sabor. Come on, it's bring your pets to school day, even though I think of you as a brother than a pet. She smiled passionately. I purred and growled with my tail showing my happy mood. We walked out of the house and headed to the high school that horrors my memories as a kitten. We ran into Isra and walked together, and she asked, Good morning, Sabria. Is that cat we met yesterday? Sabria said, Indeed he is, and I adopted him yesterday as well. Isra asked, Okay, so what did you name him? Sabria said, Sabor is what I named him. Isra said, that name fits him. Sabria said, Oh, there's something you should know. Sabor is half vampire as well, but he only drinks the blood of animals that he preys upon. Isra said, Well, that's good to know. Is that one of the reasons why you named him that? Sabria said, Yes, and my favorite animal is a saber-toothed tiger. Isra said, I should have figured that was the other reason you named him that. She laughed. I growled in question. We both smiled and loved on me. Isra asked, Hey, Sabria, you okay? Sabria said, A little worried about Sabor, actually. This morning, Sabor, I guess, had a nightmare and was upside down, claws deep in the ceiling, with blood crimson, red, glowing eyes, panting. Every time I got close to him when he was like that, he fled from me and drank the blood of an owl that was outside. Isra said, Well, maybe he fled out your window to protect you from himself drinking your blood. Sabria said, Maybe, I'm not sure, but I'm curious of what caused his bloodlust to spring out. Isra said, Let's hold that subject for another time, okay? Sabria said, That won't keep it from staying in my mind, but I think I'll cancel track of for right now until I'm no longer worried about Sabor. She frowned concernedly. Isra said, "Okay, we need a girls' night tonight." Sabria asked, "Isra, are you trying to cheer me up?" Isra said, "I am. Plus, you need this, and we haven't had a girls' night since last time you were like this," Sabria said. That was the day after that murder happened in our school in our freshman year. I stopped and got a flash of my reoccurring nightmare of what I saw long ago. Sabria and Isra turned around to see my eyes, how they were this morning. I panted, waiting to calm down. Sabria was about to come closer when Isra stopped her by pushing her back with her hand. Sabria looked at Isra, and Isra shook her head no. Isra asked, "Is this what you're talking about?" Sabria said, "Yes, it is. And the fact that I don't know how to help Sabor with this, it's mind-torturing." Isra said, "Let's go to the nurse's office and ask what might be going on after the end of school." Sabria said, "Okay, Isra, I'm fine with that. But what are we going to do right now with him like this?" Isra said, "We wait for him to calm down so that we can continue." Sabria said, "Okay." I calmed down after a few minutes, and so I took a deep breath, closing my eyes, then exhaled, opening my eyes. I smiled, roaring passionately, and I rubbed up against Sabria's leg, purring or worrying her. Sabria loved on me, then headed to the school. After a couple of minutes, we arrived at the school. We went inside the school, and when we passed the cafeteria, I closed my eyes, then shook my head. No. We went to a classroom that had pictures on the wall. I think it was the art room. I saw other animals in the classroom, and I even saw Pash. Pash saw me and came over and said, "Hi, Sabor, how you doing?" I said, scared of my past and what I might do to Sabria if there isn't an exit for me to go through so I don't drink her blood when I don't want to. Pash rubbed her head against my cheek, purring, and said, "It's okay. Even though I don't know what you're going through, I can still comfort you as if I were your mother." I got a flashback of the woman I believed to be my mother. Pash asked, "You okay?" I said, "When you said mother, I got a flash who I believed to have been my mother." Pash asked, "Oh, do you not know your mother?" I said, "I don't have any memories of her other than who I believed." I said, "It's okay as long as I don't get a flash of my past that haunts me at night. I'm good." A teacher came in and said, "Good afternoon, everyone. I see you've brought your pets and considered family members." The teacher was a man with a cheery tone and went to the middle of the classroom. Then everyone said, "Good afternoon, Mr. Pree." Mr. Pree said, "Okay, today you all will be drawing your Hats are considered family members. You all have 20 minutes to get done, starting now. Hash said, let's talk in a bit, okay? I said, okay. I went over to Sabria and laid down next to her while she drew me. 20 minutes later, the timer went off, surprising me a little. Mr. Priest said, okay, everyone, time's up. Now, Miss Sabria, please show how you drew your cat there. Sabria grabbed the canvas holder and set it where everyone could see it. I was shocked that it was her perspective of this morning. Mr. Pre asked, Miss Sabria, did this happen recently? Sabria said, this morning, Mr. Pre. Mr. Pre asked, is he half vampire? Sabria said, and half human, sir. Mr. Pre said, okay. Hey, well, since you look worried, here, take this hall pass and note, then go to the nurse's office, okay? Sabria said, yes, sir. I'd like Israel to come with me if that's all right. Mr. Priest said, that's okay with me. Here's another hall pass for Israel. Sabria said, thank you, Mr. Priest. We walked out and headed to the nurse's office. When we got there, we went in and Sabria said, hi, Mrs. Sharu. Mrs. Sharu said, hi, Sabria and Isra. Is there something wrong? Isra said, Sabria is worried about her cat Sabor. Mrs. Sharu asked, what seems to be the problem? Sabria said, this morning he was on the ceiling, claws deep, panting, and his eyes were a blood crimson red glowing color. I've guessed that he had a nightmare, but on our way to school, we were talking about it, and then when we mentioned what happened to this school a few years ago, Isra finished Sabria's sentence. He did the same thing but on the ground, terrifying her, making her worry more. Mrs. Sharu said, I see, so he's half vampire and you believe his bloodlust was triggered by it. Oh, for that massacre a few years ago? I'll have to look closer into this. And unfortunately, there wasn't any power in the school at the time, so I won't be able to find any security footage of that night. Wait, how old is he? Sabria said the adoption papers said he is 4 years old. Mrs. Sharu said, then if he were to have been here back then, he would have been a kitten. Sabria said, thank you, Mrs. Sharu. Mrs. Sharu said, anything for my favorite athlete. She smiled. Then we went from class to class until it was time for lunch. We went outside to the tree in front of the track club and ate with them. One of the track club members asked, we're not having any activities, are we? Sabria said, no, we're not. I am a little worried about Sabor, but we shall see about Monday's activities, okay? All the track club members said, okay. Sabria said, hey, Freya, Lily, and Arissa, y'all, Isra and I are going to have a girls' night tonight. They all said, okay. After I was done eating, I smelled Hash nearby. Hash came behind me and I said, hi Hash, you trying to surprise me? I smiled. Hash said, maybe, but I also wanted to talk to you more. I asked, about what exactly? Hash said, Oh, I just want to get to know you a bit. I said, that's a haunted tomcat that is very curious of Sabria, who has the same scent as the woman I believed to be my mother. Pash asked, is that why you like her and trust her? Well, anyways, sounds like I'll be at your house since my girl Freya will be going to your house. I asked, is that so? You do know I might go off again, right? Pash said, oh what? If you do, I want to help you out the best I can. I said, now that I get a better smell of you, you have a similar scent as me. Are you my sister or one of my parents' siblings' daughters? I said, I can't say that I'm not your sister, but I can't say if our parents are related to each other because I really don't know. I said, you actually kind of look like her, so I'd say we're related through her, assuming she is my mother. We laughed until the bell rang. Sabria and I went from class to class until it was time to go home. We met up with Sabria's friends in Pash, then headed home with them. Orissa asked, so Sabria, are you really that concerned about Sabor? Sabria said, I am, but I'd like to see if these pills will work to keep that from happening again. Orissa said, I see. How about we spoil Sabor tonight by loving on him? Sabria laughed and said, I'm fine with spoiling him tonight, especially to get my mind off of his past. Lily said, don't worry, Sabria, it's all about you and Sabor tonight, so we are going to spoil you too as well. They all laughed. Meanwhile, while we were walking home with Sabria's friends, Pash asked, sounds like you're going to have a good night tonight, Sabor. I said, they can't spoil me if they can't get to me. Plus, I have you to spoil me for them. I smiled. Pash said, oh really now, Sabor? She laughed passionately. I smiled, then I said, I like you and I enjoy the presence of queens such as yourself. Plus, I don't want to think about my past since it makes Sabria worry. Pash said, I understand. So you want me to not just comfort you, but give you a good time as well? She said a little flirtingly. I said, if that's okay with you. I smiled. Ash said, oh, I'm okay with it because I'm fascinated with you myself. We laughed. Then we arrived home. We all walked in through the door and Sabria said, we're home and my friends are here for a girls' night. Sabria's mother said, okay, I'm fine with that, dear. Is that the cat from the vet? Sabria said, yeah, she is. She's Freya's cat Pash and looks like she's taken an interest in Sabor. Sabria's mother said, in what way? Sabria said, in that keeping him entertained way. Lily's head. Yep. Plus, they're so cute together, yet somehow look related. Freya said, now that you mentioned that, they do look similar. Plus, they got along quite fast by the sounds of it. But anyways, let's get going to your room and gossip. Orissa said, you're right, Freya. Let's go and love on Sabor while we gossip. Freya's mother said, Well, okay then, girls. Have fun, he laughed. They went to Sabria's room while Pash and I snuck outside to hang out hit up in a tree. Pash asked, "Did you kill an owl up here, Sabor?" I said, "That was this morning." Pash said, "Oh, sorry. The smell was still there, so I had to ask." I said, "I understand. Though at least we're not the only ones who caught the possible relation." Pash and I laughed and talked for a bit, but meanwhile in Sabria's room, Sabria said, "It looks like Sabor and Pash are trying up there. But anyways, tell me, Freya, how was your date with Jan?" Freya said it wasn't bad, but he was super awkward, so I told him that he needs to work on his social skills, and then we can have a second date. Lily, Sabria, and Orissa all said, "Oh." Orissa said, "Well, that makes sense. You're not the type to like awkward people." Freya said, "I won't deny that. Plus, you know me too well." Orissa said, "Of course we do. We're childhood friends after all." Lily said, "That's right. We'll always be here for you and each other. But anyways, let's get Sabor down into your room, Sabria." Sabria laughed, then said, "Agreed." They went to the balcony, then they branch walked over to Pash and I. Sabria said, "Sabor, come here. We want to love on you." She laughed. I asked Pash, "Do you want to get loved on with me, Pash?" I smiled. He said, "Sure." They're going to continue to try to guess anyways, so yeah, I wouldn't mind. He tilted her head over to the right, smiling. So we came over to the balcony of Sabria's room, and I was happy being loved on by all the girls. I even made sure Pash got loved on with me. After we had our dinner, all the girls were getting ready for bed. After they were done, they were in their pajamas and ready for bed, but they decided to gossip a little bit more. Orissa asked, "So who wants to play Truth or Dare?" Freya, Sabria, and Lily all raised their hands and said, "I do." Orissa said, "Okay then, Lily, Truth or Dare?" Lily said, "Dare." Orissa said, "I dare you to admit your feelings to the one you currently have a crush on at school." Lily laughed and said, "You're late for that. I did that earlier today at school and we're now official." Now Freya, Truth or Dare? Freya said, "Truth." Lily said, "Tell us, who other than Jan do you like?" Freya said, "Honestly, nobody really. I hadn't really noticed anyone else who caught my eye. Anyways, Sabria, Truth or Dare?" Sabria said, "Truth." Freya asked, "Tell us, do you have a crush on Sabor?" Sabria said, "Maybe I do, maybe I don't." She smirked. They all said, they all were laughing. Sabria said, "I had a good time with you girls tonight. Thank you." Lily said, "No problem. You're not just our girl. You're our captain of the track club. Of course we're going to make sure you have a good time." Sabria said, "Aw. Well, anyways, we should probably get to sleep. But first, Sabor, come here. I have something you need to take." I came over and she said, "Here, put some water in your mouth, but don't swallow. Then put the pill in your mouth, then swallow." I did what she instructed me to do, and the pill went down without any problems. Sabria said, okay, good night everyone. They all said night. Chapter 3, A Better Day. The next morning, I woke up to the sight of the sunset. It was bright red and overwhelming that I thought it was beautifully vague, but I didn't mind it. I got out of bed and rubbed my head, purring up against Bria's right cheek, waking her up. She laughed, still a little tired. She said, "Hey, poor, you sweet Tom, come here and give me a hug." We hugged each other. Then someone said, "Good morning, you two. How do you sleep?" Sabria said, "We slept all right last night, Lily," she said happily. Lily said, "Well, that's good. Want some tea? It's mint and peach with a little bit of banana as well as honey." Sabria said, "Ooh, sure, I'd be happy to have some." Lily said, "Okay then, I'll get you a cup." Sabria said, "Thank you, Lily." Lily walked downstairs to get a cup of tea for Sabria. Meanwhile, Larissa woke and asked, "What's the racket?" We fell back asleep. A couple of minutes later, Lily came in and gave Sabria a cup of tea. Sabria said, "Thank you, Lily." Lily said, "No problem." After Sabria and Lily were done drinking their tea, the rest of the girls woke up and got dressed. We came down for some breakfast, and man was it good. After we were done eating, I went ahead and laid on the couch to get comfy. Pash came up on to the couch with me and snuggled up into my arms. She asked, "How are you doing, Sabor?" I said, "Happy and comfy." Pash asked, "That's good." I asked, "And how about you, Pash?" Pash said, "The same." I smiled and said, "That's good to know." We laughed comfortably. Sabria saw Pash and I all snuggled in the couch together, then said, "You two look so cute all snuggled up in the couch like that." She smiled and took a picture. Then Arissa asked, "Hey Sabria, so what are we doing today?" Sabria said, "We're going to the mall today." And do you know what that means, girls? They all said, "To shop for some cute clothes." They all laughed. Then Sabria's mother said, "Well, if we're going to the mall, then let's get some ice cream with chocolate fudge, caramel, and sprinkles." Sabria gasped and loud whispered, "Sprinkles." "Well, okay, then let's get going." She smiled excitedly. Sabria's mother said, "Okay, let's go, but what about Pash and Sabor?" Sabria asked, "Hey Freya, is it okay if we drop off Pash and Sabor at the vet for a play date?" Freya said, "Sure, I just need to call my mom real quick." Sabria said, "Okay." Freya called her mother and asked, "Hey Mom, is it okay if we take Pash and Sabor to the vet for a play date until we get back from the mall?" Her mother said, "Yeah, that's okay. We actually just were in the animal hitter room yesterday and is ready to be used." Freya said, "Okay then, we'll get there as soon as we can. Love you, Mom. See you soon. Bye." Her mom said, "Love you too. Bye." Freya said, "Okay, let's get going." Sabria's mother their head. Yes, ma'am. When we arrived at the vet, they dropped off Pash and I there, then left. Then the veterinarian that took a look at me came over and said, "Well, hello again, Sabor. Come with me. I have an area for you two ready to go." She smiled. I followed her with Pash. A couple minutes later, we arrived at the animal sitting room. It was full of things to play with. The walls were painted like a forest, while at the same time the current season. It was a beautiful room that any pure or half-breed would feel at home in. I saw a bed to lay down on, and so I laid down on it. It was so comfortable that I almost fell asleep right away. The veterinarian said, "I see you are comfortable, Sabor. I'll leave you and Pash alone while I work." "Have fun." She giggled, then closed the door. Pash asked, "Well, what do you want to do, Sabor?" I said, "Sleep. This bed is too comfortable for me to stay awake any longer." I closed my eyes and fell asleep. I heard a voice saying, "Well, hello, my little kitten, my little saber-toothed kitten. I love you, my prized young winter solstice. I hope you stay alive, for I won't be for very long. Goodbye, my little winter solstice." She kissed my forehead. I opened my eyes to the sight of who I thought to be my mother, which I guess I was right. She was my mother. I woke up and saw Pash in my arms, looking at me, smiling, then asked, "So, how do you sleep?" I cried and said, "She was my mother. I was her little winter solstice before she died," which I didn't get to see in my memories from my dream. She loved me enough to die to protect me. I continued to cry, and Pash comforted me, then said, It's okay, I got you. There's nothing for you to worry about. I'm here for you, Sabor." I stayed silent and crying for a bit until Pash fell on her back. I was still hugging her when I said, "I need my Sabria with me right now. I need her." Pash kissed my cheek and said, "She isn't here right now. Right now you have me, and I want to help you. Plus, I want to see if we're related through blood. I want to know we're related so I know that my urges to comfort you is because we're related to each other. Do you understand me?" I said, "I do," but Pash said, "But nothing. Just let me love you, you handsome Tom." I said, "Then show me a good time to keep me from thinking about it." Pash said, I will." She kissed my forehead. I got up off of her. Then she got up and offered me her hand. I took it, and she hoisted me up to my feet, then said, "Let's have a good time together." She smiled. We had a good time. We tickled each other. We went outside and ran around. We climbed a tree trying to catch a bird, and we took a long nap afterwards, but overall I enjoyed myself. An hour later, after we took a nap, I felt a nudge on my right shoulder, so I opened my eyes to see Sabria smiling at me. She said, "Wakey, wakey, Sabor, it's time to go." I yawned, got up, then rubbed my head up against Sabria's cheek, purring. She laughed happily. She said, "Aw, I love you too, Sabor. Okay, come on, let's go, you loving Tom," she giggles. We walked out to the car and we drove to the park for a run. When we arrived, we got out of the car and Sabria was stretching to get ready to run. Her mother asked, "Okay, dear, are you ready to wreck the opposing team?" Sabria said, "I've been training for this since first grade. I'm looking forward to kicking the other team's butts." Sabria's mother said, "Well then, go do so." Sabria and I started running in the beautiful forest around us. The forest is filled with cherry blossoms, pine trees, bushes, ponds, rivers, both dry and flowing, animals roaming around, doing their own thing, hunting prey for food, and a cool, gentle breeze that makes me run faster, faster, faster to no end. It's been 5 minutes on the trail, and we were 75% done when we all of a sudden heard a gunshot. I saw a bullet go past my face, and so I grabbed it to take a closer look at it. I saw it was made of a cursed blood bullet that would kill me, causing my eyes to redden. Sabria stopped and saw my eyes were red. I expanded my eyesight, trying to find who tried to kill me, then saw a flash of a sniper scope, and so I ran faster than a human can see until I was behind the sniper. The sniper had a knife heading towards my stomach, so I grabbed it and used the blunt end to knock the sniper out, and asked myself, now who would dare try to kill me? I took off the hood. I saw an old man of homelessness and loss, so I grabbed him with his gun as well as his knife and took him over to Sabria. Sabria asked, "Sabor?" I showed her the bullet and pointed out the old man, then I pointed at me. She said, "Well, that little Sabor, keep him knocked out while I call my mom to tell her what happened." I nodded my head, and so I broke his gun to be sure he wouldn't be able to kill me when he had the chance. Sabria said, "Hey Mom, I'm at the brook trail, and someone tried to kill Sabor with a cursed blood bullet I learned about in school. So he's lying on the ground, knocked out by Sabor, and broke his gun with a tight grip on his knife." Sabria's mother said, "Oh my, I'll call the police to your location right away. Stay safe. I love you." Sabria said, "I will, and I love you too." She hung up, and so we waited. 2 minutes later, the police arrived, got out of their police cars, then came over, and one of them asked, "Are you two okay?" Sabria said, "We're both fine." Sabor, please give the officer the handle of the knife. I grabbed the blade on the door side and handed the knife to the officer. The officer grabbed it, then took it away. The officer asked, "Did Sabor kill him?" Sabria said, "No, sir, just knocked him out with the blunt end of the knife, I'm guessing." The officer said, "Okay, that's good. Wait, is he a vampire?" Sabria said, "He's half human, half cat, and vampire." The officer said, "That explains it. He's a vampire rebeller, a group who thinks that vampires should all die for what they had done in the past, and the 14th century Dracula montage. Sabria said, "Okay, I understand. We'll be careful." The officer said, "Good. Also, that cat's side should keep you and him alive. I would know since my sister is a half cat and half vampire as well. But anyways, care to take a ride with me to your mom?" I looked in the officer's eyes and looked at Sabria, nodding my head. Then she said, "Well, Sabor trusts you, so why not? And thank you." The officer said, "You're welcome." We went into the police car. Sabria sat down in the passenger seat, and I went in between her legs, lying my head on her lap, closing my eyes, and fell asleep. Chapter 4. An Endless Dream. I dreamed that I was in a dark room all alone. I thought of Sabria. I thought to be with her once I was no longer dreaming. But you know how dreams are. They can seem endless. Even in my dream, I knew it was just that, a dream. I thought the dream wouldn't end, so I let my mind slip into my instinctive nature, and the surroundings of the dream changed into a winter paradise. There was snow, forests, mountains, caves, cliffs, ravines, rivers, frozen over, icicles hanging off the tree limbs, cave entrances, and overall beauty everywhere. This place had a beautiful night sky. It was clear enough that you could see the stars, the ecliptical moon, the aurora, and a nebula in the shape of a saber-toothed tiger's eye. This place was a beautiful sight for me, being feline after all, and yet the night sky brings out my vampiric nature as well. I ran around, embracing my winter surroundings, feeling free to run wherever I pleased, but it wasn't the same as being with my Sabria by her side. She is my mistress, my family, my love. I would die happy being loved on in her lap. I can't stop thinking of her both brotherly and intimately. There isn't anything I wouldn't do to protect her, even if I were to lay down my life. As long as she is alive, that's all that matters. I just want to be by her side until we die, together, or me first, then her. She is my everything to care for her to love on, for me to protect, for her to have by her side. We are the ones to live in the end. I heard her voice echoing around me, saying that she loves me, that she doesn't want to lose me. Only after she adopted me and protected her, she cried, saying that she loves me in the way that I loved her. Her voice slowly faded out to the point that I let go of the dream and fell asleep within the dream. Chapter 5. The Awakening. I woke up sleeping next to Sabria, and man, she's a beautiful sleeper. She opened her eyes to sight of me awake. She said, "Sabor, you're awake. I was worried that you'd never wake up again." I was going to nudge my head up against Sabria's cheek when I felt something keeping me down. I looked at my wrists and ankles to find they bound me down, preventing me from moving. Sabria said, "I'm sorry, Sabor. I'll take these off for you." She took off the bonds. Then I was finally able to nudge my head up against Sabria's cheek, and I purred. She said, "Shh, shh, 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 shh. It's okay. I'm fine. I just needed to do this in case you died one day. So come here, Sabor." Sabria closed her eyes, then kissed my lips, causing me to close my eyes. And when she pulled her lips from mine, I licked her lips. She said, "I see you feel the same way." She smiled with passion in her eyes. Sabria's mother opened the door and said, "Sabria, is Sabor alright?" Sabria said, "He's fine, just relieved." Sabria's mother said, "Good. Anyways, the vampire hunter that tried to kill Sabor killed himself so that he wouldn't be faced on trial. Just thought you should know." Sabria said, "Okay, thank you for telling me, Mom." Sabria's mother said, "You're welcome. But anyways, Sabor has been asleep for a week and the fall is coming up here in a few days. So I was wondering who you're planning on bringing as your date." Sabria said, "I'm not going to the ball, plus you need to work that night anyways, so you don't need to be motherly and lose your job." Sabria's mother said, "I'm supposed to be responsible for you, not the other way around, but I'm happy you're growing up." She smiled proudly. She closed the door and walked away. I rubbed my head against Sabria's belly, purring, making Sabria smile to the point that she fell asleep and I fell asleep with her. Later that afternoon, Sabria and I were walking the park since she wanted to take me somewhere only she knows about. We made a turn and stopped after a few hundred feet in front of a tree. Sabria said, "We're here. We just need to go behind this tree, then I'll show you the surprise." We walked behind the tree, and Sabria brought her hand out, felt across the bark, then grabbed the bark and pulled open a secret hatch, going down into the earth. Sabria said, "Right this way, Sabor." She smiled. She climbed down, so I followed her down and closed the hatch behind me to keep the foolish prey from coming in. It took us a minute to get down, but when we did, it was dark everywhere except where the ladder was, until Sabria pulled a lever that lit the place up with light. It was a beautiful place that has the scent of Sabria. There was a kitchen that was pure quartz. There was a well-constructed bed that was blood red, black, white, and gold. It looked comfy enough for a queen to give birth to a pride of kittens. There was an entertainment room that had a TV, console, a couch that has fluffy and comfy pillows that I could knead on. There was an area that had a tree with obstacles on it that was for a cat. Even a vampire would enjoy it. There was a garden that was well taken care of. There were even blood roses, and man did they smell good. There was an underground river that looked like it was full of blood, but it was just pure minerals that makes the water look like blood. This place is a paradise. Sabria did a great job preserving this place. Sabria got on the bed and asked, Sabor, can you please come here? I walked over to the bed and jumped right onto the bed. Sabria said, Sabor, you know I'll always love you, even if you were to turn me into a vampire. I will still love you. Now come here. He came close, then Sabria kissed me and pushed me back onto the bed. Then said, Sabor, do you promise to only turn me so that you can save me from death? I tried to speak her language and said, of course, my beloved queen of beasts. Sabria, she was surprised but happy I could speak, and for my promised to turn her if we were at the brink of death. Sabria said, glad to hear. No, then let's have some fun, she said passionately. After a couple of hours later, we returned home in time for dinner. Sabria's mother said, oh good, you're both back home in time for dinner. That will be ready as soon as you get back from washing your hands. Sabria said, okay mom, she smiled. After we were done washing our hands, we sat down and ate dinner. While I was drinking the blood from the fish I was going to eat after, Sabria's mother asked, Sabria, I've noticed that you've been happier since we got Sabor. Am I right? Sabria said, yeah, I have, haven't I? Sabria laughed. Sabria's mother asked, I see. So would you take him to the ball if you wanted to? Sabria said, perhaps or perhaps not. I could have the ball here and dance with him at home. Sabria's mother laughed and said, is that so? She continued laughing. Is that why you wanted me to go to work while you're here with Sabor, having a good time with each other? Or were you actually worried about the possibility of me one day losing my job? Sabria said, the second one, since that same day Dad got ran over by that forsaken vehicle that killed him. Sabria's mother said, oh, I see. You haven't talked about him since the incident. Well, now I understand. Thank you for being honest, Sabria. Sabria said, you're welcome, Mom. The rest of dinner was silent until after Sabria was done washing her dishes. She said, good night, Mom. Sabria's mother said, good night, you too. Sweet dreams, Sabria said, you too. We went upstairs, got freshened up, and went to bed in each other's arms. To be continued. Season 2, Chapter 1. I felt happy. I felt happy. I felt happy being in the arms of my Sabria, who I love so dear to my feline heart. I love how she smells like my mother. I love how loving she is. I love how beautiful she is. She may not be a queen, but I still consider her to be my queen of beasts. I woke up to the warmth of Sabria's body. I licked Sabria's cheeks. She woke up, looked at me, and she said, good morning, my king of beasts. She kissed my lips and we closed our eyes until after 30 seconds we opened them, then moved our faces away from each other. Sabria said, let's get ready for school, Casey boy. I said, why of course, Sabria. We smiled and then got dressed. We went downstairs to eat breakfast. When I smelled my salmon ready for me to eat, my eyes her blood crimson red, so I sped up to my meal and sank my fangs into the fish to drink his blood. Sabria said, "Well, you're quick, say poor. Anyways, what's for breakfast, Mom?" Her mother said, "We're having crepes for breakfast, Sabria." Sabria got giddy and said, "Ooh, yeah, you need to put in my tummy." Sabria's mother smiled and laughed. I ate quickly and my eyes turned back to their original color. Not too long after, it was time to go to school. Sabria said, "Well, we've got to go to school. See you when we get back, Mom." Sabria's mother said, "Okay, Sabria. Have fun. Love you." Sabria said, "Love you too." We headed to school and ran into Isra on our way. Isra asked, "How are you doing, Sabria?" Sabria said, "Happier than I was earlier." Isra said, "Well, that's good. Also, you're looking golden. Are you okay?" Sabria laughed and said, "Oh, just fine. I'm just perfectly happy, that's all." Isra laughed and said, "Okay, you just wait. Are you?" Sabria said, "No, I'm not." There was a moment of silence until Sabria said, "Please do not ask that question again. Okay, Isra?" she said with a fierce look in her eyes. Isra said, afraid, "Yes, ma'am." Sabria smiled happily and said, "Thank you, Isra, for understanding." Isra said, You're welcome." They continued to conversate until we got to school. We headed over to the track club so that they could drop off their running bags and to leave me here until they come back. Sabria said, "See you in a few hours, Sabor." I heard, then I went up the tree to sleep on top of. A few hours later, I woke up to the sound of a teacher asking, "Hey, get down from there and change into your uniform." I hissed in annoyance and closed my eyes back. The teacher saw my tail and realized that I was not one of his students. He said, "Oh, you're a cat that grew up around your instincts. My bad. I'll leave you be." The teacher walked away, and I was about to fall asleep when I heard the lunch bell, so I came down and waited for Sabria to come to sit by me. A few minutes later, I saw Sabria and her track club members following behind her. She speed walked over and sat down beside me. She asked, "Did you enjoy your nap, Sabor?" I purred while rubbing my head up against Sabria's belly. She laughed, saying, "Hey, that tickles. Here, I have something for you." She had a salmon for me to eat, which caught my attention. She said, "Here you go." She gave me the salmon and smiled. I was happy to have something to eat, let alone my favorite. A few minutes later, the back to class bell rang. Sabria said, "See you in a bit, Sabor." She laughed and smiled. I rowed passionately, then slept back up in the tree and waited for Sabria to come back. After not too long, I heard a voice in feline saying, "Hey, Mixbreak, come down here and talk to me. We got a problem." I opened my eyes to the upside-down view of a tomcat that looks older than me, and he looks grumpy. So I said, "Sorry, but we don't have a problem. I don't even know you, so I'll be moving to another spot out of your reach, but still comfortable. I sped up on top of the rafters of the track club's locker room. The elder Tomcat said, "We're not done here, mister." I sighed and said, a little ticked, "We don't have a problem. I just need my sleep. Otherwise, you're just annoying me when all I want is to sleep. So I'll give you two options. One, leave me alone and let me sleep. Or two, I come down there and take you far away from me. So which is it?" The elder Tomcat asked, "What's your name?" I said, Sabor. The elder Tomcat said, "Oh, my bad. Thought you're someone else. Sorry for bothering you." I said, "It's alright, but next time please ask a person's name before you try getting into a fight with them. Okay?" The elder Tomcat said, "I'll try to remember, but anyways, goodbye." I said bye. After a while, I woke up to the sound of Sabria's voice. She had a smile on her face that made me smile. She asked, "Do you want to run, Sabor?" I dropped down, landed on my feet, and growled in excitement. Sabria said, "Well then, let's go have a good run." I sped up to the track and ran faster than I ever ran, 1 foot every 12 feet in an oval of 10 by 300 feet. The chilling breeze of running this way was relaxing. The girls joined into the track. Sabria was learning from my movements to get faster, gaining ground, and to not let the speed at which she's going wear her out, but to enjoy the breeze at which it is caused by that speed. Sabria said, "Looks like you're enjoying yourself, Sabor." I smiled, and our run in seconds became a challenge to see who's faster. We learned from one another as we ran, so much so that we exhausted the others, but we still ran without getting exhausted ourselves. After 10 minutes, we called it a tie and we rested with the others. Sabria said, "That was fun. Looking forward to doing this with you whenever we get the chance." She smiled. I growled passionately. We heard the bell, and so I went up the tree to not only sleep, but to hunt as well. Sabria said, "See you when it's time to go home." "Okay, Sabor?" She giggled. I round at her happily and continued to wait for prey to come into my grasp. They went off to their classes, and I got my hands on a cardinal while they were walking off. I sank my fangs into the cardinal, drank its blood, and began eating it. After I was done, I went ahead and slept some more. The sound of the final bell woke me up, and so I got down, then ran the track for a bit until Sabria came over to me. After I ran 112 laps around the track, Sabria yelled out and asked, "Did you have a good run, Sabor?" I round and smiled at Sabria. She smiled and said, "I'm glad. Anyways, I'm going to grab my stuff and then it'll be time to go home, okay?" I slowed down, then I purred and rubbed my head up against Sabria's chin. Sabria smiled and grabbed her bag from the locker. Then Sabria said, "Okay then, let's go." We walked out of the school grounds. We were going to head home when Sabria's mother drove in and said, "Hey Sabria dear, we're going to your Aunt is for dinner tonight. She's making your favorite spinach enchiladas. Sabria gasped excitedly and asked, My aunt is making spinach enchiladas? He smiled excitedly. Sabria's mother said, See, she is. And she has a special fish for you, Sabor. Sabria opened the door and we went in, then sat down with my head lying on Sabria's lap. An hour later, we arrived at Sabria's aunt's house and got out of the car. Then Sabria's mother rang the doorbell. Someone opened the door, and the woman who answered looked like Sabria's mother. The look-alike said, Hey, Twinnie. Sabria's mother said, Hi, Sandra. Sandra said, Hi, Sandria. How have you been? Sandria said, We've been alright, sis. How about you? Sandra said, Good as always. And I see you've got a new family member to introduce to me. She gave me a hug, and I purred instinctively. Then Sabria said, His name is Sabor. He's half cat, half human, and a vampire. Sandra said, Well, that makes sense to name him that. Plus, your favorite animal is a saber-toothed tiger, isn't it, Sabria dear? Sabria said, It is, Auntie Sandra. Sandria said, Anyways, it's game night, so let's eat dinner and get playing. Sandra said, You're right, sis. Now come in. Dinner is almost ready. We walked inside, and to my surprise, the floor was soft. The place was shinily white, and a room looks like a forest. I walked over to the forest room to take a better look. I got closer and saw a queen cat who came over to say hello. She was black, white, and orange calico cat that was playing with a string on a fan. I was closing in on the string, and then I jumped and grabbing the string, turning off the fan. The calico cat asked, Who are you? I said, I'm sorry, my instincts took over. Anyways, my name is Sabor. I'm Sabria's adopted brother. The calico cat said, Nice to meet you, Sabor. My name is Kelly, and you are an interesting tomcat. I said, Okay, well, anyways, what do you want to do? Kelly said, How about jump at? I said, I've seen other cats play jump at, but I've never actually played until now. But don't worry, I know how to play, I said excitedly. Kelly said, We'll see about that. She pounced me and I laughed, then said, Oh, you're going to be fun to play with. Kelly said, Well, follow me outside. There's some tall grass for us to play in. I said, Okay, but I need to tell Sabria first. Be right back. I walked over to see some chips with letters printed on them. I grabbed the letters I needed and walked over to Sabria, then laid out the chips in order. I wrote out, Kelly and I are going to play in the tall grass outside. I figured you'd like to know. She said, Okay, Sabor, have fun, stay safe. She giggled and smiled. I rounded and smiled, then walked outside. When I got outside, I used my senses and found Kelly. I sped stealthily 6 feet behind her. I got ready to pounce, and I jumped and batted her head falling to the ground, jumping gracefully with her jumping after me to the point she pounced me, preventing me from moving. We laughed and she asked, "You're half vampire, aren't you?" He said, laughing. I said, "Yeah, I am. That's how I found you and got behind you." I said, laughing. She said, "I'd thought so. But man, you know how to play jump at." I said, "I wouldn't lie unless if it was life or death or wasn't anybody's business or I'd forgot something or don't know the full story." Kelly said, "Understandable. But anyways, let's continue playing until it's time to eat." The dinner bell rang as soon as Kelly said that. I laughed and said, "Well, then let's get our dinner." Kelly said, laughing as well. Agreed. We went inside, washed up, then went over to the dinner table, waiting for our food to come to us. Sandra placed her plate down at her seat, then went over to the fridge, opened the fridge door, and grabbed a plate of fish, then brought the plate of fish over. She then grabbed both fish, holding one to Kelly and I. I purred and then sank my fangs into the fish, drinking the blood from the fish dry. Sandra said, "What a unique tomcat he is." Sabria said, "He is indeed. He's my happy tomcat." She smiled. Sandria said, "Anyway, Sandra, what have you been up to?" Sandra said, "Oh, not much really, just going around trying to get a husband." Sabria said, laughing like always. Auntie Sandra. They all laughed. Then Sandra said, "Good one, Sabria dear. Anyways, how about you, sis? What have you been up to?" Sandria said, "Oh, just raising Sabria to the best of my ability, and her taking care of me by making sure I don't lose my job." Sabria said, "She may be my mom, but it's like I can be her mom myself. It's quite funny, actually." She laughed. Sandra laughed with Sabria and said, "That is funny, Sabria dear." She giggled. Sandria said, "Yeah, I'm really proud of Sabria for looking after me, especially how close she is with Sabor. They're so cute when sleeping together in bed." Sandra said, "Wow, and how old are you now, Sabria?" Sabria said 17, yet I should be graduating right before summer. Sandria said 17, wow, I'm getting old. We're like 35, and I don't have children of my own as of yet. She laughed. Sandria said, "At least Sabria's birth helped me with dealing with Aaron's death." Sabria asked, "You're talking about Dad, aren't you?" She asked faint of heartily. Sandria said, "I am, and it breaks my heart to know that he will not get to know his own daughter, but I'm sure he's happy that you've helped me get over his death so that you could be raised into the woman you are today." Sabria smiled and said, "I understand. I'm glad that you two were so close that you know what each other would want after death." Sandria said, "I'm proud to hear that." Sandra said, "You're right. She is like a reasonable young mom for how young she is." She smiled. Then they all laughed in tears. Sandria said, still laughing, "You always know how to make us laugh, even if some of the time you don't even try." Sandra said, "I know how to break the mood to get people laughing." She smiled. As they continued laughing, Kelly and I were done eating our fish, then walked over to the forest room. We got into to comfy beds and fell asleep. After a while, Sabria woke me up and said softly, "It's time to go home, Sabor. Say goodbye." She smiled. I walked over to Callie sleeping. Then I rubbed my head against her cheek and whispered, "See you next time, Callie. Bye." I licked her cheek. I walked off with Sabria and I got a surprised hug by Sandra. Sandra said, "Goodbye, you handsome tomcat." She said, smiling in a happy voice. I purred and rubbed my head against her chin. Sandra let me go and I went next to Sabria. Sabria said, "See you later, Auntie Sandra." Sandra said, "See you next time, Sabria, dear." "And you too, Twinnie." She smiled. Sandra said, "Later, sis." We walked outside, got into the car, and drove home. We got home late enough that I was barely able to move without collapsing. So I walked by Sabria to keep me stable. We walked upstairs, got freshened up, and went to bed. Then Sabria and I fell asleep. Chapter 2. Planning the School Ball. The next morning, I woke up to the sight of Sabria thinking her head off. I walked over to Sabria and laid my head in her lap, snapping her attention from her thoughts to me. She smiled and said, "Good morning, Tabor." I nuzzled my head into her lap. Then she said, "Oh, I'm just designing the school ball since the assignment was given to me." She looked at me for a bit, opening my mouth to see my fangs, and then she said, "Wait, I think I know how to design the school ball." She began to draw a design, writing on a piece of paper and wrote a list of what is needed for the school ball decorations. She said, "There we go, all done." She sighed, then said, "Now just need to buy the stuff. Luckily, there's more than enough money from the spare school budget. Anyways, are you ready for breakfast, Sabor?" I purred excitedly. She said, "Well then, let's go downstairs and eat." She smiled. We went downstairs to the smell of food being made, but the one smell that caught my attention was the smell of salmon. Sabria said, "The food smells good, Mom." Sandra said, "Thank you, Sabria dear. Anyways, please let me know when you're ready to leave to buy what is on your list." She smiled. Sabria said, "I will." Sabria began to eat her food while I sank my fangs into the salmon. Sandra asked, "So, Sabria, what do we need to get?" Sabria said, "Here's my list of what we need to get." Sabria handed Sandra the list, and Sandra looked through the list and said, "That's a lot of stuff to get. Do you know how much of this stuff you actually need?" Sabria said, "The high school president gave me the measurements of the gyms so that I'll have a rough estimate of how much of one thing I need." Sandra said, "Well, that's good. Here are the measurements." Okay. Sandra was looking at what is on Sabria's list. Okay, I ordered everything with some extra of everything, but we're going to have to pick that stuff up. Sabria asked, "How much was all of that?" Sandra said, "Approximately $450. Sabria said, "Okay, good, 'cause we have a spare $1,000 in the budget I was given." Sandria said, Wow, you have that much money to spare? Sabria said, Yeah, plus we need to get a DJ platform, lights, and music equipment. Sandria said, At least you don't have to use your club's budget. Sabria said, Yeah. They left. After we were done eating, Sabria said, Okay, Mom, I'm ready to go pick up the stuff. Sandria said, Okay, I'll get the car ready. She smiled, then brought some stuff in from the car and said, Okay, I'm ready now. Sabria said, Okay, come on, Sabor. We walked out to the car and headed into town. After we arrived at the stores picking up the decorations, we went ahead and got some lunch when we ran into Shiro. Sabria said, Oh, I'm sorry, huh? No, it's you, Shiro. Shiro said, Hi, Sabria, don't worry about running into me. After all, you're cool, despite how scary some people may think I am. I have a warm, gentle heart, but that means nothing if my life is on the line. And that even includes video games as well as any sport or game for that matter. He smiled. Sabria said, I see, my mom, Sabor, and I were doing some errands for the school ball tomorrow, as well as getting some lunch before heading there, if you'd like to join us. Shiro said, Sure, I'll have lunch with y'all, even help out with the decorations as well. He smiled curiously. We ordered our food at a fast food Chinese restaurant called Panda Express and took our seats. Sandria said, I don't believe we've been introduced. I'm Sandria Borealis. It's nice to meet you. Shiro said, Shiro, and it's nice to meet you too, ma'am. Sabria asked, So how old are you, Shiro? Shiro said, The same age as you, Sabria. So what's your favorite colors? Sabria said purple, violet, red, and black. How about yours? Shiro said black, silver, white, and a balanced gray. What's your favorite animal in history? Sabria said saber-toothed tigers. Yours? Shiro said snow leopard. How fast are you? Sabria said I can go up to probably around 40 miles more than a cheetah on a life or death scenario. What about you? Shiro said I can run 5 miles an hour, but double in water. What is your grade average? Sabria said 90 to 100 in history, 100 in English, 80 to 85 in science, 85 to 95 in math, and 100 in the rest. How about you, Shiro? Shiro said all 90s. What's your favorite element? Sabria said a nebula, so creation itself. And you? Shiro said my favorite element is ash. Anyways, let's get personal. Ask me some personal questions. He smiled excitedly. Sabria smiled curiously and said, Okay then, are you an only child like me? Shiro said, Nope, I have 3 sisters and, well, 6 sisters. Sandra said, Wow, what a family you have. Shiro said, Yeah, it doesn't help when all our sisters are half cat and get in heat, then start flirting with you through the wall in a locked room to keep them from doing anything inappropriate to you. He said embarrassedly. Sabria said, Oh, yeah, that'll frighten a person. Anyways, are you in a relationship? Shiro said, Yeah, I am. Remember that girl I took to the infirmary a week or so ago? Well, she called me her angel because of the sunlight shining behind me through the window, to the point where the next day she confronted me and said thank you for taking her to the infirmary you're my angel. Then she kissed me and I just went with it. I didn't react or any other way than that because my emotional control had shut off. And well, here I am now. Sabria said, wow, so you and Yura are a thing now after however long after I said thank you. She smiled. Shiro said, yeah, well, anyways, if you are ready, let's go to the school gym and decorate it with what you have. Sabria said, agreed. See you there, Shiro. Shiro said, I will. Sabria said, come on, Sabor. We walked outside and got into the car, then headed to the school gym. After a while, we arrived outside the school gym, then got out and carried stuff into the gym bit by bit. Shiro said, okay, now that that's done, what do you need me to do? Sabria said, well, since the DJ booth is already in the right spot, we just need to put the floor decoration under it, then get everything hooked up and line up the tables. I need you to take this and put it up like, hold on. Sabria was booting up the program she used to draw the design of the gym, then said, like this. Shiro said, okay, I think I can do that. Shiro grabbed the decoration, grabbed a ladder, and began setting the decorations up. Sandra asked, what about me? Sabria said, you can take care of this since you've done this in your old school. Sandria said, okay, that's something you know I can do. Sabria said, okay then, Sabor, can you please help out where you can? I roared passionately. Sabria said, now I can do this. Let's get to work. After a little bit, we were done decorating. Sabria said, now that's what I was picturing. Shiro said, not bad, I like it. It's vampire themed. Sandria asked, did Sabor influence the theme here? Sabria said, a bit. Sandria said, you're thinking pretty hard to end up taking influence to help you relieve your stress for this ball. Sabria said, pretty much, but it was worth it, and I think I'll need some essential oils in mist form tonight while I'm asleep. Sandria said, okay, I'll see what I can do, but anyways, now that we're done here, let's head home. Sabria said, okay, well, anyways, thank you for your help, Shiro. Shiro said, you're welcome, Sabria. But anyways, I've got soccer practice to go to, but I wouldn't mind if you came to my soccer game a week after the school ball. Sabria said, we'll see what we can do. But anyways, have fun at practice. Shiro said, thank you. I will. See you Monday, Sabria. Bye. Shiro walked off and Sandria asked, so what do you want for dinner, Sabria? Sabria said, ramen noodles sound good. Sandria said, okay, I can do that. Anyways, it's time to go. Sabria said, okay, Mom. Come on, Sabor, you handsome tomcat. She smiled. We went outside and got into the car, then drove home. When we got home, we got out of the car and went inside. Sabria said, okay then, please let me know when dinner is ready. Sandria said, I will, Sabria dear. Sabria said, let's go outside in the backyard, Sabor. I roared passionately, then we walked out to the backyard. I followed Sabria to a beautiful spot in the garden that had beautiful flowers, mossy grass, a fountain with rocks around it, with a blossom tree growing behind it. A nice gentle cool breeze coming through the fence and speak her holes in two of the big rocks. It was spectacular enough to a place for me to sleep in the middle of. So Bria walked behind the tree, and to my surprise, there was a secret door behind it. So Bria said, "Follow me, Sabor." It was the same as the one in the park. Sabria climbed down. I closed the door behind me and climbed down as well. After we were at the bottom, Sabria turned on the lights and the place lit up. It was the same place, but a different part. There was plenty of chickens, ducks, and turkeys down here to help feed us down here. Sabria asked, "Do you want to see the rest of this place, Sabor?" I growled excitedly. Then we walked around, seeing what I haven't seen yet. This place was bigger than I thought. There was plenty of stuff down here we practically called the Garden of Eden, because this place had almost everything natural in this place. There were even non-humanoid animals like the avians I saw when we came down here, like a pride of passive-aggressive tigers, black leopards, bobcats, cheetahs, and even, to my surprise, a small pride of saber-toothed tigers, along with other non-humanoid animals. But anyways, Sabria walked closer to the saber-toothed tigers and said, "Hi, Sabra. Hi, Saber. Hi, Bree. And hi, Fang. How have you four been?" Saber said, in my language, "Hi, Sabria. We've been good." He stood and rubbed up against Sabria's waist without making her fall. Sabria said, laughing, "I see. Well, I have someone to introduce to you. This is my adopted brother, Sabor." I said in my language, "Hi everyone, it's nice to meet you." Sabra said, sniffingly, "So your name is Sabor, huh? Why is that?" I said, "Because I have vampire as well as have human and have cats. Also, you're her favorite breed of feline." Sabra said, "That's understandable. But anyways, it's nice to meet you too, Sabor." We stood together, rubbing our heads together. Then Bree said, "I've never seen a feline like you before." Fang said, "Neither have I, sis." I said, "Well, you're seeing me now." I smiled, and Sabria said, "I wish I knew what you five were talking about, but we need to move on. There is still so much for me to show you, Sabor." I growled and said, "I need to go see more of this place. See you on our way back." They all said, "Okay, see you in a bit." The place was amazing. All that room, all that stuff, it's perfect for surviving in forever, for that matter. After Sabria was done showing me around, we headed back up to the garden in the backyard of our house and went inside. Sandra said, "Oh good, I was just about to tell you that dinner was ready." Sabria said, "Okay, we just needed to wash our hands and then we'll eat our food." She smiled. Sandra said, "Okay, don't take too long." Sabria said, "We normally don't." She laughed. After we washed our hands, we sat down and began to eat. After we were done eating, Sabria and I got freshened up, then went to bed. Sabria said, "Have a good night, Sabor. See you in the morning." "Night," I purred, then we fell asleep. Chapter 3. Something Unexpected. The next morning, Sabria and I woke up in each other's arms. Then Sabria said, "Good morning, handsome tomcat." She smiled. I growled and smiled. When we got out of bed, Sabrina and I got changed and headed downstairs for breakfast. When we got down, I sat down and waited for Sabrina to give me fish to bear my fangs upon. She said, "Here you go, Seaboard. Enjoy." She smiled, then I got to eat. After we were done eating, Sabrina said, "Follow me, Seaboard." I followed her down to the underground paradise, and we went to the beautiful house at the other entrance. When we got there, Sabrina asked, "Do you want to play in the parkour tree?" I growled and smiled, then we headed inside. We jumped, skipped, flipped, twirled, ran, hopped, and so much more on the parkour tree that led outside throughout the whole underground paradise. We had so much fun that when we got back to the house at the other entrance, we got ourselves a drink of water. Sabrina said, "That was fun. How about you, Sabor?" I growled happily. Then she said, "I'm glad. Well, we should go back up to our house so that Mom doesn't worry. Come on, Sabor." Sandria said, "Okay, you're in the garden." Sabrina said, "Yeah, we were just hanging out there for a bit. I'm guessing you're going to work." Sandria said, "I am, and because of you, I'm going to be there until I get home at 11 p.m. if there is traffic." Sabrina said, "Just be happy I treat you like my own daughter instead of only just my mother. Anyways, go on before you get fired." Sandria said, Okay, I'm going. Don't do anything stupid, okay?" Sabrina asked sarcastically, "Who takes care of who?" Sandria laughed and said, "See you later, Sabrina dear." "Love you, bye." Sabrina said, "Love you too, Mom, bye." Sandra closed the door and Sabrina said, "Well then, let's head on back down." We headed back down to the underground paradise, then headed back to the house at the other entrance and went inside. We got into bed and we slept together again. After we took a nap, Sabrina loved on me, played with me, ate with me, and we had so much fun. After we were done having fun, we headed up to the backyard garden and went inside our home. Sabrina looked at the time and it was 9:30 p.m. Sabrina said the school bell should be going on right now. Then Sabrina got called by Isra. She answered it and asked, "Hi Isra, what's going on?" Isra asked, "Are you with Sabor right now?" Sabrina asked, "I am. Why do you ask?" Isra said, "I need your help with something." Sabrina asked, "You forgot your dress, didn't you?" Isra said, "Oh no, I do. Just snuck out to the ball and I need your help putting it on." Sabrina asked, "Where are you right now?" Isra said, "Behind the bleachers." Sabrina said, "Don't move, we're on our way." Isra said, "Thank you, Sabrina." Sabrina said, "No problem. See you in a minute." Isra said, "Okay." Sabrina hangs up and Sabrina asked, "Sabor, we need to go to the school to help Isra." "Come on, let's go." She smiled. We ran out of the house and ran to the bleachers in 1 minute. Then Sabrina called out, "Isra, where are you?" We heard a voice saying, "I'm here, Sabrina." We saw Isra in a beautiful purple, black, and white dress. That didn't look right, Sabrina said with a concerned smirk. "Girl, come here and let me fix this." Isra said, "Thank you, Sabrina," she said, not knowing what to do. After a minute, Isra's dress was fixed and she looked perfect in it. Isra asked, "So, how does it look?" She slowly twirled around. Sabria said, "You look beautiful, Isra. S.X.S is perfect for you in every way." She smiled. Isra smiled happily, then said, "I'm happy to hear that. And what do you think, Igor?" I purred passionately and growled in approval. Isra said, "Thank you, Igor." She laughed and said, "Well then, thank you for helping me, Sabria. I owe you one." Sabria said, "Track members don't keep score on what people owe them. We keep track on how fast we are and how fast we can get." It was hedge carefully. Okay, well, anyways, I'm going to have fun. You two enjoy yourselves. Sabria said, "We will." Israel waved behind her and Sabria said, "Okay, Sabor." She heard a faint whisper in the background. Then whispered, "Sabor, do you hear that?" I listened closely and heard a guy saying, "I heard a little girl and her pet vampire are going to this school, like that one teacher 4 years ago who hid her vampire child from us before we killed her for mating with a vampire and for hiding her child as well." I thought to myself, 4 years ago? They were here 4 years ago. The teacher they're talking about, could they be talking about my mother? If so, then I'm going to kill them all. Sabria asked, "Sabor, what are you hearing?" I said, "They killed my mother when I was young 4 years ago, here at this school, and I'm going to kill them all. So please, stay here. I don't want you getting hurt." Sabria said, "No, I want to help you, Sabor." I said, "Do it and you'll get hurt by me when I'm not in control of myself and drain you dry of blood. I don't want that. Just watch from high up in the stands so that you won't get hurt like you did emotionally down from that tree I was in, sucking the blood out from that owl. Do you understand, my queen of beasts, Sabria?" Sabria said, "Yes, I understand." I said, "Good, because it's about to get bloody." I looked in the reflection of Sabria's eyes and saw that my eyes were glowing a blood crimson red, and I ran out to kill my mother's killers. I ran through the bushes, jumping behind them, cutting 2 of them at their necks with my claws and biting, then ripping the other one's jugulars out. The other 17 all shot out once with their sound suppressant guns, but I was too quick for them to hit me. I ran in circles, killing them off one by one until there was only 10 left. I jumped so high that I came down hard enough that I killed half of them in the impact, and killed the rest with a circular swipe of my claws through their throats. One of them that fell shot out after landing on the ground, ricocheting off the metal, hitting Sabria. I ran over to her after I calmed down a little bit, and when I got to Sabria, she was bleeding on the stand. She sat sitting up, bleeding, barely able to speak. I think she coughed. I think that bullet hit my heart. She coughed some more blood, and I asked concerned, "If you need me to turn you, just tell me." Sabria said, "I will, but first, I need to try to get up." She slowly rose up a little bit, and was almost fully standing. Then she fell back on her butt. Then she said, lying back down, "Okay, you can turn me, Sabor, my beloved handsome tomcat, my king of beasts." I cried and said, "I will turn you as you asked. I love you, Sabria, my queen of beasts." I sank my fangs into her throat, drinking 5% of her blood while putting my wrist in her mouth so that she can drink some of my blood as well. Her fangs quickly manifested into my wrist, and she drank what she needed to heal. She said, "So, this is what it feels like to be a vampire. Thank you for saving my life, Sabor." I said, "You're my queen of beasts, Sabria, so of course I'm going to save you." Sabria said, "And you're my king of beasts, so you know I would do the same thing for you." I said, smiling, "And no." Sabria pulled me closer and kissed me. We heard a voice asking, "Are you responsible for killing my comrades?" We looked over to see a frightened man in a vampire hunter's coat who saw our blood-red eyes and said, "You're vampires." He pulled his sound-suppressing gun and fired. We separated and went behind him so fast that we broke his back, paralyzing him from the neck down, but was still alive. He said, unable to move, "Son of a bitch, you two broke my damn back." Sabria said, "You shouldn't have shot at us, and you dumb vampire hunter." He said, "It's my job. Now my other comrades will kill me because of you children." Wait a minute. "Dear Miss Patricia's son, where did she hide you?" I said in plain sight. The vampire hunter asked, "You mean you were still in the school and we didn't see you?" I said, "Indeed, yet that day is the day I began having memories, though I don't know how, but I somehow got outside without a scratch." The vampire hunter said, "Well, however you got out of there, you will die one day." Sabria said, "Good luck with that. We have our places to hide at. So anyways, have fun dying by your comrades. Bye." We walked off, and the vampire hunter was yelling his mouth off until we heard him drop. We turned around and saw his comrades running at us, so we ran triple time. We ran too fast for them to catch up, and so we ran to the front and went down into the underground paradise at the original entrance. When we got down there and Sabria turned on the lights, she asked, "I'm sorry about your mother's boy. She was my favorite middle school teacher." I asked, "What was she like?" Sabria said, "She was smart, kind, loving, but get on her bad side, she'd turn you into her errand boy or girl, or something far worse, but nothing too extreme. She was beautiful, smelled nice. I even asked her what perfume she used. I said, 'No wonder you smelled like her.' Sabria asked, 'Is that what caught your attention with me? Was because I smelled like your mother?' I said, 'Yeah, it was, but anyways, please continue.' Sabria said she could be playful with us when playing a game that she always won at." She laughed. We rarely got to win against her, but she always made a comeback after one loss. From time to time, she'd have us love on her and had us give her a hug just to cheer her up. I always loved that about her. Though now that I'm seeing it, you do look like her, act similar to her, and most of all, you've got the same birth heart she had. She'd be proud of how wonderful you had turned out to be, even if you'd scare her from time to time with that vampire side of yours. But that's just your charm. Plus, cats and vampires are quite similar. They both have claws, they both can see in the dark, they both act superior, they both can be charming, they both can be playful, and they can be deadly despite how beautiful or handsome they are. I asked, and you like that about me? Sabria said, I love everything about you. Not because I love cats, not because I love your personality, or looks, or behavior, but because I love you for you. After all, you're my beloved king of beasts, Sabor. I said, I love you the same way, my beloved queen of beasts, Sabria. Sabria came closer to me, smiling, and kissed me. Then we fell onto the bed. She pulled me up onto the pillow, wrapped the blankets around us, and said, let's enjoy the night tonight. Then see about taking Mom down here so that we can survive these vampire hunters. I said, okay, but first let's be careful. We don't want to have them find our hiding place, now do we? So Bria said, no, we do not. Now then, let's have some fun before we fall asleep tonight. The next morning, we woke up in each other's arms and got changed. I ate fish like always, but Sabria had the same thing and drank the fish's blood before eating them as well. That surprised me, but anyways, after we're done, we carefully went outside into the backyard garden of our home. And before we could go inside, we saw police officers talking to Sandria, so we went back down into the underground paradise, but not before leaving a note saying, we're sorry, Mom, we can't come back home until all the vampire hunters are dead, or at least the ones that aren't working for the government. We love you, Mom. Stay safe, stay working, and most importantly, keep my thinking place nice and beautiful for me when we get home. Love, Sabor and Sabria. When we got back down, Sabria said, well, shoot, guess we have to wait until every one of those illegal vampire hunters are dead. She sighed. I said, at least we have each other. Sabria said, indeed we do. And wait, do you hear that? I said, I do. It sounds like other heartbeats? Sabria asked, but where are they coming from? I walked around listening. The heartbeats got louder the closer I got to Sabria. Then when I crouched to place my ear to her stomach, I said happily, they're coming from you, my beloved queen of beasts. I said gently and slowly, moving my hands against her stomach. Sabria asked, you mean I smiled, nodding, and said, yes, you are. You're going to be queening in a couple of months and a week, Sabria. Sabria gasped, smiling with tears, then said, I'm so happy I could do anything to keep them alive. How many of them are there? I said, I can hear 2 of them. Sabria asked, do you know what gender they are? I said, I don't, but what gender do you feel like they could be? Sabria said, I don't know, I'm still so new at this whole vampire thing. I got closer to her and whispered, close your eyes, listen to their heartbeats, pay attention to your feelings. Now look deeper into yourself and tell me, do you feel like we're having 2 boys, 2 girls, or 1 of each? Sabria said, I feel like it's 1 of each. I think we're having a boy and a girl. I said, well then, what should we name them? Sabria said, well, I've always loved this one Greek character named Atalante, whose wish was for all children to be loved. So how about for our boy Atalon and for our girl Atalante? Then, as for their middle names, how about Love Child? Or, if somebody is talking about both of them, then Loved Children. I said, I think that suits them nicely. I smiled, purring. Sabria said, I think I'm still hungry. But Sabria began to collapse, so I quickly grabbed her, holding her up. Then I placed her on the bed. Then I said, I'll get you some food. Be right back. Sabria said, okay, don't take too long. I said, I won't. I grabbed a net and quickly gathered up as many big fish that was close to me, then took the net full of big salmon back to the house down here. I quickly ran back and said, here, I got some salmon for you to eat. Sabria said, thank you, Sabor. You're really fast at getting these. I asked, who's just as fast as who? I said, smiling. She laughed and said, thank you, Sabor, my king of beasts. I said, why, of course, my beloved queen of beasts. We giggled together. Then Sabria began to drink and eat her meal. After she was done eating, she could stand up again and had to go to the bathroom. After she was done in there, we watched a romantic anime series, a couple of movies, then ate lunch, tended the garden, hung out with the other felines, played some video games, which I was surprisingly good at, and overall had a good time. Later that night, when we were in bed sleeping together, I had a dream of a warm feeling inside of me, something on fire but harmless to me and those who I want to protect. The fire spread wings, talons, a beak. It was a phoenix, but then it turned to ash, and out of the ashes was a boy with angel-like wings that were also like a phoenix. It was a phoenix angel. It was a phoenix angel boy. He reached out his hand to me, so instinctively I reached out my hand in response. When our hands touched, that phoenix angel boy burst into flames. Those flames went into me, and then I felt like I could protect anyone now, even Sabria, who was my sky, and me, her landscape. Chapter 4: The Wings of Elemental Power. I woke up, yawned, then saw that Sabria had nebula-colored wings, and I said, Sabria, my queen of beasts, you need to He's something. Sabria woke up and tiredly asked, "Hmm? What's going on, Sabor? Sabor? You have wings that resemble a phoenix, but more angelic." I said, "What?" I got myself out of bed and looked at myself in the mirror and said, "I thought I dreamed them up." "I guess not, but you need to look at yourself in the mirror as well." Sabria said, "Okay." Sabria got out of bed and looked at herself in the mirror, then asked, "I have wings as well, but nebula instead of phoenix angel ones." Wait a minute. Sabria got something to drink to wake her up and look at herself in the mirror again and asked, "What's going on? I know I dreamed them up, but how did I get them in the first place?" I said, "I don't know, but I'm curious if we can hide them so that we don't stick out of the forest." Sabria said, "I just don't want to get experimented on." I asked, "You mean being studied to death?" Sabria said, "Yes, I do." I said, "Well, we have all the time in the world down here to figure that out." Sabria said, "True, so I guess it's not all that bad. But anyways, let's eat. I'm starving." I said, "Okay." After we were done eating, we were focusing on how to hide our wings without clothes to hide them for us. By meditating, mood dilating, relaxing, exercising, parkouring, running, jumping obstacles, etc. We experimented in different ways to try to control them, even by taking the leap and learn how to fly. It took me the second try to learn how to fly, but it took Sabria 5 tries to learn how to fly. After 3.5 hours, we called it a day of practicing, as well as figuring out how to hide our wings away at any time. We ate lunch, then watched some TV shows, movies, and played some video games. After that, we took a nap. After we were done taking our nap, we tended to the garden and then went out to hang out with Sabra, and their cubs. Sabra asked, "What happened to you two, Sabor?" I said in our language, "Oh, not much. We both had similar dreams, and so we ended up getting wings as well as some extra power we've not yet discovered how to bring out." Sabra said, "That explains that, but can you explain how Sabria has them as well?" I said, "She was shot by a dead vampire hunter, falling to the ground, pulling the trigger, and the bullet that came out reflected off the metal, hitting her heart. Therefore, she asked me to turn her into a vampire so that not only she wouldn't die, but so she could heal faster. That may have something to do with the wings, but I'm not sure if that's the real cause to begin with." Sabra said, "At least you saved her, so I'm guessing those hunters were trying to kill you." I said, "Indeed, and they still are, but they don't know about this place as of yet. Though we do plan on waiting for Sabria to begin queening at some point here in a few months." Sabra said, "Wow, well, congratulations, Sabor." Sabor said, "Yeah, that makes things perfect for everyone here to be more exposed to people in general." I said, "Hey, just be gentle with our hymns, okay?" Sabra and Saber said, "We will." I said, "Good, now anyways, let's walk around for a bit." Sabria asked, "So what did you three talk about?" I said, "About current events taking place." Sabria said, "Okay, well, let's get moving anything. Oh wait, there's something I want to show you all. Follow me. I said, okay. We walked for 30 minutes and we were going outside of a tree when we saw a beautiful waterfall that is connected to the stream down here. There was a lot of different plants, creatures, and so much more. This place is small but beautiful in multiple different ways. I said, this place is beautiful, Sabria asked. It is, isn't it? She smiled. There was a minute of silence while we took in the beauty around us. Then Bree said, come on, Thing, let's play. Thing said, okay then, let's go. Sabra said, don't wander off too far, you two. They said, we won't. Sabria said, well, let's explore the rest of this place. I said, okay then, let's go. We walked toward the waterfall, then went over to the right side of it, then saw there was a gap. Sabra called out, what do you think? I'm here. I said, okay. We walked through the side of the waterfall, then we saw a crystal cave, and as we continued going on deeper, the space kept getting bigger and bigger. When we reached the end, we saw something bright, and when we got out, we saw the biggest place we've seen underground before. We saw a cretaceous wilderness filled with creatures thought to be extinct. There were dinosaurs everywhere down here. There were ankylosaurus, brachiosaurus, diplodocuses, and so much more. I even saw very few carnivores, such as this place was hotter than our cavern, but at least it's luminescent so that everything could be seen. I said, stay here, I need to check something out. Sabria said, okay, be careful. I said, I will. I flew off the cliff, turned around, and flew in place. I looked around for any possible ways for these carnivores to get up here without wings. I saw none other than vines and parkour jumps, but it's pretty much impossible for them to get to our location where we sleep. I flew over, landing back on the cliff, and said, there's no way for the carnivores to get to us back at our cavern and the near entrance at the crystal cave. Sabria said, oh, so that's what you were doing. Okay. What about climbing the vines before going up here? I said the vines are too be hard for them to climb on, so 5% chance for them that way, but double that for them parkouring up here, so I think we're good. Sabra said, good. Sabra said, well, it was nice hanging out with you two. We're going to head back to the cavern, I said, in our language. I see. Well, it was nice hanging out with y'all as well. Stay safe on your way there, okay? Stay first. Oh, we will see you later. I smiled and Sabria asked, are they heading back? I said, yeah, I don't blame them. They wouldn't be able to get back up if they tried. Sabria said, okay, well, anyways, want to try to explore some more? I said, sure. We flew off the cliff and flew around this massive place. We could only see carnivores our size or smaller, but we saw herbivores of all different sizes. This place is like a true Cretaceous wilderness or preserve. The forests were big and tall, the water was plentiful, There was a beautiful harmony in this place, more destructive than our cavern, but at least it was contained. We saw another cave that the flying dinosaurs can't get through. We flew over to it and landed perfectly and went deeper. After a couple of minutes, it was getting colder. Then, at the end of the cave, we saw a frosty wilderness that was just my style. We saw snowed grasslands, forests, giant ice overhangs leading to one part of this place after the other. We were on a cliff, but this one leads into all three levels of this place. We saw snow leopards, mammoths, saber-tooth tigers, other than saber, and their cubs, the middle level, penguins, seals, white tigers, white lions, and so much more on the third level down. For me, this place was the most beautiful place I've ever seen. I love the cold, the beautiful winter sky, the non-blinding snow at night, all of it that was nothing to do with the daytime of winter. Sabria said, "Wow, another beautiful wilderness. Though there is another path. Want to see where it leads?" I said, "Sure." I smiled, and then we continued on. We followed the tunnel and ended up back behind the waterfall. Sabria said, "Well, that was an adventure, wasn't it?" I said, "It was." Sabria said, "Well, let's head on back home, shall we?" She smiled, and I said, "We shall." We smiled at each other and walked back home. When we got home, Sabria said, falling into bed, "I'm exhausted. I could take a nap again." I said, "Same, but we could do something to take our minds off of our wings for a bit." Sabria asked, "Like what?" I said, "Like actually taking a nap, or we kissed each other to the point of actually falling asleep." After we were done with our nap, we got something to eat and watched some movies as well as played some video games. After a while, we were tired again, so we went to bed and fell asleep for the night. Chapter 5. The days and weeks fly by. The next day, we woke up to the sight of our wings gone. I softly said, "Sabria, our wings, they're gone." Sabria grunted and asked, "What?" I softly said, "Our wings, they're gone." Sabria rose up and said, still a little tired, "Oh my gosh, they're gone. Well, do you want to see how we can get them back today?" I said, "Sure," without any questions. A week later, we've learned how to bring out our wings on our own. Sabria's belly was about the normal 3 human months bigger, but she'd become a bit more passionate over the days, and from time to time more wild. Every day we'd fly the 3 caverns without a care in the literal world. We've kept the garden tended every day so that nothing would rot or wither. We kept busy in a daily routine that was both good for the unborn cubs and good physically. Today we were in the forest cavern getting to know the animals there without somehow agitating them or somehow spooking them. We were quite adventurous but nice. Week 3, Sabria was in the normal 4.5 human months pregnant. We stayed in our cavern for the time being, but still getting our exercise. Today we spent the day replanting the crops flying around the giant trees and watching movies as well as playing video games. Month 1, week 2, Sabria was in the normal 7 months and 1 week pregnant. The days seemed less and less exciting except when we're trying to kill each other on COD Infinite Warfare, but at least they've been more loving the more she's going to begin queening one day. Month 2, week 1 and a half, Sabria was in the normal 9 months and 3 weeks pregnant. All we did today was tend the garden and watch a romantic anime TV show to the end. Nothing too special. Month 2, week 2, Sabria was in the normal human 10 months and a week pregnant. Tonight, we were just watching a movie when Sabria began to start queening. I took her to the bed, got on top, and, well, did what she said, until Atalon and Atalante were born. Sabria said while nursing, "They're beautiful, aren't they?" I said, "They are, but just as beautiful as you." She said, "Aw." We kissed, then I said, "I'm going to go to sleep, so if you need anything, wake me up and I'll get it, okay?" I smiled. Sabria said, "Okay, sleep well, Sabor, my king of beasts." I said, "And you do your best to do the same as well, my beloved queen of beasts." We giggled and smiled at each other. Then I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up, nuzzled Atalon and Atalanche's cheeks, then gave Sabria a kiss on the forehead. She woke up right as I kissed her forehead and whispered, "Well, good morning to you, my beloved king of beasts." I whispered, "Good morning to you too, my beloved queen of beasts." We giggled quietly, trying not to wake up the cubs. Sabria asked, "Could you please help me up while I'm holding the twins?" I said, "Hold on, I need to get them warm towels to be wrapped up in." Sabria said, "Well, that's sweet," she giggled. I warmed up a purple as well as red towel by putting them in a plastic bag and putting them in warm water for a couple of minutes, then took them out without getting them wet, then brought them over to Sabria. Sabria asked, "Can you please spread one out?" So I did, then asked, "Okay, now please take Atalon and set him head out of the towel." So I slowly and adjustedly grabbed Atalon and placed his head outside the towel line. Then I spread out the purple towel, grabbing Atalante, then did the same thing with her as I did with Atalon. Sabria said, "Okay, now I'll wrap him up so that you can get us something to eat." I said, "Why, of course, my beloved queen of beasts." Sabria said, "Why, thank you, my beloved king of beasts." We giggled, then I went ahead and caught us 3 salmon. 1 for me, 1 for Sabria, and 1 to drain of its blood for the cubs, since the vampirism gene is hereditary to go along with Sabria's milk. After I drained the 3rd finish of its blood, I asked, "Hey, Sabria, do you have something to help extract some milk?" Sabria said, "In the bathroom in the cabinet, there'll be a kit says delivered mama baby kit." I went to the bathroom to look in the cabinet, and on the middle shelf there were 3 kits. Help with the months of pregnancy kit, help during birth kit, as well as after delivered mama baby kit. I grabbed the one Sabria asked me to get. I looked inside, and the first thing I see is the tool I needed. I took it over to Sabria, and, well, he took over the feeding process for our cubs. She said, "Okay, now that's done. Let's eat our breakfast." I said, "Agreed." After we were done eating, we watched a romantic movie while feeding our cubs with the cub bottle. The cubs were so silent that we're both surprised that they didn't move. They just kept their eyes shut and did what they're supposed to, which was a relief for Sabria compared to me. I've heard kittens mew, babies whine, that I got used to the noise they made. Atalon looked more like Sabria in the cheeks, the brows, and in the waist, while he looks like me everywhere else. For Atalante, it's the opposite, but still has the cat ears and tail like Atalon. I said to myself, "My gosh, they're cute." After the movie was done, I saw that Sabria fell asleep, so I grabbed a blanket and left her with it, then went out to tend the garden. After I was done, I went in to see Sabria awake, and I asked, "Had a good nap?" Sabria said, "I did, and I see you took care of the garden." I said, "I did because you taught me how." I smiled. Sabria said, "I'm glad since I have Adelon and Adelante to take care of." I said, "Yeah, well, anyways, is it too soon to go on a walk out there, or is there another side of the cavern not filled with predators?" Sabria said, "Follow me." I followed her to a door and asked, "Can you please open it?" I said, "Of course, my beloved Queen of Beasts." I opened the door and saw the rest of the cavern. It was full to the brim with flowers, small waterfalls, forked streams from the original stream, lavender plants, mint plants, etc., small hills, wild onions, chirping birds, mist, fog from here and there, as well as so much more. This place is meditation heaven. Sabria said, "The only predators out here are birds that prey on worms and bugs of that sort." I said, "Okay then, let's go on our walk." We walked out of the house barefoot and walked around, since the ground is mainly soft because of the moss grass around. When we walked through the water, to my surprise, it was comfortably warm, so I shifted my feet up one foot down the other. After I got comfortable of the warm water, we moved on. The flowers together brought out a remarkable smell that mixed well with the lavender and mint. The natural breeze felt nice with the rest of the sensation of this place. It is almost underwhelming. As we were moving from place to place in this place, the air started to get colder, but in a comfortably considerate way. When we got to the end, the place was pure white due to the flowers everywhere, with a sheet of fog on the floor of the flowers. I said, "This place is perfect for us when we're in the mood to relax." Sabria said, "Relaxed? It is, though we do need to watch how long we stay out here. Last time I nearly was unable to get out due to this place's aroma." I asked, "How long were you out here?" Sabria said, 2 hours, and when I got to my room, I crashed for the rest of the day. and was very hungry the next morning. I said, "Well, that sounds exhausting and painful, but it took 30 minutes to get here. If you're worried, we can head back. I won't complain," I said passionately. Sabria said, "Okay then, let's head on back." We got back to the house and ate lunch before we watched another romantic anime TV show. It was back and forth, eating, watching, but that's just how it was. After we were done eating dinner, we brushed our teeth and went to bed.